So I would like you to go into the Reminders app in your Apple phone, please. Please go into the Reminders app. Now, the Reminders app looks like this. This one down the bottom here. See my little one down the bottom here with the number 5 on it? I want you to find that Reminders app, please. Everyone, please find it. And then what I want you to do is I want you to drag and drop it to this base bar here. So it looks like that. So it's right at the front and you cannot lose it. And it's one of your main apps because you're going to really get stuck into using it. This is what I want to get out of this. I'm going to show you how to do widgets. You know how you can click on an app and make them wiggle? Oh, can you make them all wiggle? Can you please do that for me? Then what I want you to do is I want you to click this plus button at the very top. Can you please click this plus button at the top? I'm going to come into the widgets. And then what I want you to do is go down and you need to come in here, look for the Reminders widget. Here it is, so I can find it. I want you to click on the Reminders widget. And then I want you to drag it so it's the big one. Okay, I mean, you can have the little one, but I prefer if it's the big one, you can see all of your lists. Okay, so let's drag it to the big one. And then add that widget. Now that will now sit at the top of your phone. Now what I want you to do, guys, is I want you to click on, I want you to, okay, sorry, I have to remind myself sometimes. Once they've stopped wiggling, I want you to hold that widget, click and hold the widget. Okay? You can edit the widget. And then you're going to be able to choose a list. Now, have you ladies got any lists showing there? I know Bree did. Do you have any lists showing there, ladies?
No.
Okay, all right. So what I'll do is I'll help you create lists and then we'll come back into this section to customize what shows on your home screen. Okay? So please come into your Reminders app.
Yep.
Now, your top of your home screen might look a little bit different to mine. Up here, you may have, I'm just gonna move this over here. Up here, you may have 4 boxes here. Okay, I have chosen to get rid of some of them because I don't use them very often. So if you click the 3 dots at the top, edit lists. And then just click today and just click scheduled. And then you can turn all the rest off. You don't need that stuff. It's just extra information. You're better off just getting stuff into your list. All right, and then click done. Now, what we want to do is down the very bottom right here, you'll see that it says add list. Can you all please click add list? Now, ideally, if yours is, ideally, if yours, you might have multiple accounts that it's connected to. Ideally, you want it to be connected to the cloud so that if you ever wanted to access this on a computer or anything, you know, it's just syncing everywhere rather than only being on your phone, right? If you had an iPad, all that sort of stuff, it would sync to. So you might want to create one on the cloud. How are we going with this team? We good? Awesome. Okay, and then the first list I want you to create there is today. We always need a dominant list, which is the running list for what we want to add to today. And the cool thing about this list is that when you talk to Siri and you say, hey, Siri, add a reminder.
What do you want to be reminded about?
Tell Janine, Karen, and Bree to set up tasks.
Okay, I've added it.
What it does is it adds it automatically to your today list. So the really cool thing is you can talk to your phone when it's on the side of the kitchen, when you're driving, when you're hanging out washing, and all of a sudden your tasks are all being added to your dominant list, which is your today list. It's really good. Whatever your top list is always the one it will be added to. If you've got obviously any Apple devices, that's what it goes into. So you need that one there. Color code it, give it a emoji, whatever you want, and then click done. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you the lists that are most popular based on that document that you were sent. And then I'm going to help you set them up. And then I'm going to talk about the types of items that are in there and then help you guys customize them and move them around and stuff like that. Okay. So the most popular ones are, let me just share my list here. Let me reshare, stop share, reshare. Okay, great. So I want us to do these ones here, ladies. So I'm going to just make this small so that you can see it. Sorry, team. There we go. These are the main lists that women use, okay? So they have today, they might choose to have a priority list. You might have different work management that you need or different people you have to have meetings with. And then these are the ones where it starts to get more interesting. This is better. For, you know how sometimes there's something like, you just need to remember to do this a date a month away, or buy the present for the kid, or book the appointment in a year's time, or upgrade the EpiPen, or call the aircon dude who was meant to come back in 3 weeks' time, you know, whatever. Janine, yeah, right? So that is what goes into the schedule for a later date. It's not something that you can action today, but it's going to tell you what you need to do when you need to do it later down the track. And the cool thing about this is it will pop up on your today list. The other one that we have there is waiting on an answer. That one there is when you have delegated something to someone and you need to hear back from them. You've done as much as you possibly can. Like it might be contacting the electrician. You need to get a quote back from them. You haven't heard from them yet. It doesn't sit on your to-do list anymore. You've done everything you can, but what you do is you move it to the waiting on an answer list, and then once a week you check that list and you follow up with all those people. So it's like a memory of, I'll get back to that human. Obviously, we've got food shopping list. I have a general shopping list, which is like Woolworths, Kmart, Big W, Priceline, whatever. So when I'm standing in a big shopping center, I know what I need to do. I also have a weekend errands list, so that when I have a Saturday or a Sunday off, I know that this is what I need to action on this day. I have a family to-do list, a personal development list, which is all the different personal development that people recommend to me. And I can just add it to a list, so I can just click on it in my car. Purchase and Lent list, so I remember all the ordering codes for things that I might buy online, or places to visit, which is obviously just a nice extra, which is like when someone says to you, you should really take the kids and your family to this cafe. And you're like, yeah, I will. And then it leaves your head and you never remember to do it. That's that extra one there. So what I want to do today is help you set this up in your phone. Okay, so let me just reshare. Sorry, team. If you can please jump into your phone. All right. So these are the lists. Okay, so hopefully you've created your today. Then the next one I want you to add is you might be like work jobs. Or for yourself, Janine, it might be book club jobs. Karen, for yourself, it might be moving house and stuff I need to clean up. Do you know what I mean? Like you add your personal profiles into this one. Obviously, it's different for every person, right? So I'll give you a minute to add those lists there.
So Chelsea, does this mean like reminders doesn't exist anymore? Because I'm looking at my phone, I've got reminders today. I just put priority in. So the reminders will now, we don't need that anymore because they're all going to be in individual sections. Is that?
Yeah. So let me just explain the reason why they do this. So they've done heaps of studies on how people's brains work. And they've realized that what happens is a lot of women write to-do lists and they write everything in one space. And it's like, buy the batteries for the torch, or update the passport, or phone this person, or, you know, like random, all types of stuff, right? But what happens is when the brain goes down that list and you're not in that work zone, so I can't buy the batteries right now because I'm not at the shops, and I can't call the electrician because I just haven't physically got 30 minutes to myself, then what happens is the brain goes, I can't do that, can't do that, can't do that. And by about 4 in, you're overwhelmed. And you're like, I can't get through anything. And also the brain is then having to calculate every single thing on that list. Think, can I do it now? Should I do it later? When am I going to get to that? Does that make sense? So what happens is when we create work zones and everything's all segregated into those work zones, when you sit down and you're like, okay, I'm going to sit at my computer and I've got to action X, Y, and Z, and it might be email, pay the bill, order the thing, you do it. You're in that zone. You can do that. Or you're standing at the shops and it's like, buy the torch batteries, do this. Or whenever you're sitting in your car, you can actually tell your reminders app that when you're in a location or you're driving somewhere or something like that, the reminders app will say call X or send this message or whatever. So you can actually prompt it based on what you're doing in your day. Apple Reminders is very powerful. So then what you can do is you can allocate those tasks to when you actually have time to complete them, and then you remember to do it because you're prompted by the app when to do it. Does that make sense? That's why we want to create subcategories.
It does. Is there an easy way to move it? So say, as you were saying before, you've contacted someone, but you're waiting for them to follow up. How do you move it from the contact list to the waiting to follow up list, or do you have to
Yeah.
rewrite it?
No, absolutely. Let me show you. Okay, so when you come into your reminders app, so once I've completed something, so for example, this top one, if I click on that, when I click on that reminder when it's been made, you'll notice that this little information icon comes up. When I click on that information icon, this is where I can tell it to do certain dates, times, when I'm in a location, when I'm messaging a certain person, if I want it to sit on different lists, whatever. Then what you'll see down the bottom here is see where it says list with the yellow heart. You can
Mhm.
click today. You can click to waiting on an answer, and it moves it in there. See how it's now moved? And that item will just move lists for you.
Sorry, are you happy to do that again? Sorry,
Of
I didn't
course, of course,
really follow that well.
of course. So I'm clicking on the item. So click on the
Oh.
written item. Yep.
So I
See
need
this
an item.
information. See the information icon that's popped up here.
Yep.
Can you see my mouse?
Yep.
Okay. I just wasn't sure. If you click that information icon, see how this has popped up. See how we have, like, you can add dates and times to it, which is awesome because it populates on your home list. You can have it when you're standing in a certain location. So you could say, when I'm in Woolworths, remind me to do this. You could say, when I'm messaging this person, tell me to do this. But then down here, you can change the lists that it belongs to. Now, my lists are all organized in sections, but I've been using this for a long time. So of course it's like organized upon organized, but you don't generally have sections and stuff. That's if you choose to take it to another level. But
Yeah.
if for yourself, Karen, with your household moving, you might choose to have sections. So with the list there, you then click this today list.
Yeah.
And then you're going to move it to whatever list it is that you now want to move it to, and it belongs.
Perfect.
But so the first thing we need to do is we need to set up all those lists.
Yeah.
Once they're set up, then we take your to-do list from your paper, whatever, and we work out, okay, where does it live? And then we move everything in. And then ideally, if you can add a date or a time, then that's when we add it against there. So that you don't have to check anything and it'll tell you what to do. So let's make them up. So the next one you want to add is, can you guys please add the list scheduled for a later date? Which is this one here, scheduled for a later date. Then you would want waiting on an answer. Then you would want a food shopping list. Then we want a general shopping list. How are we going, guys? Are keeping up?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, great. Then you may have a personal family list. As you can see, this is like superannuation or other things you need to contact, people need to contact, stuff you need to do. Then you might have a weekend errands list. Things you have to run around and do when you have, days that you can do jobs and tasks. Then I recommend having a personal development list. And then you might have a purchased or lent items list. This is good when you're doing Christmas shopping and stuff like that. So you remember exactly what's coming in and where they're coming from. So if you lose something or it hasn't shown up, you've just got an order number which you put straight into your inbox and it brings up that order. Okay, and then my final one there, I've got places to visit. But you can see other stuff in there, like based on events. I just add them in. So what I'd like to do now, ladies, is give you an opportunity to say, or have a bit of a look at your to-do list and say, this is this task, where would it go? And then I'll teach you how to add them or move them, ideally, or set dates and times on them. Because when you're practicing and using it, then that's when you get more familiar. So does anyone have anything they want to bring up?
I was just going to say, I've just lost all those lists. They've disappeared. Did I have to save it or something?
No, you should have. Where did you add them to the cloud?
Yeah.
Where did you add them? Okay.
Oh,
so
hang on. Okay. I've got to push the little triangle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they can disappear under different lists and different categories. So that's why you've got to be mindful of where you put them, because if you put them in different things, it'll disappear. Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries. So ladies, let's talk about some of the stuff that might go on the list. So if you're looking at your schedule for a later date list, for example, in there, I have like my family management. So I have, and that's also for me, but you can see it's things like when I get bad with drinking water, it's reminding myself to drink water, or it's reminding myself to fuel up every Tuesday because it's cheaper, or it's reminding me to get my kids' library bag in the morning on a Tuesday, or to put a slow cooker on a Thursday, or write my meal plan on the fridge on a Sunday, or charge my gym headset every Tuesday because I forget. Like, do you know what I mean? It's literally the nitty gritty of what defrost the meat every single night of the week because I forget. So it's thinking, like, what could I put in there that is carrying a mental load at the moment and causing decision fatigue and would just help streamline, the practices, because you don't forget stuff. So of course, when I used to do, because I have set days that I do my washing, set days that I do my snack boxes. And so when I first started that routine, I would always forget every Wednesday afternoon that I had to do my 10-minute snack prep. It's not a hard task. I just never remembered to do it. So adding it onto my reminders meant it popped up on my home screen of my phone. And then instantly I was like, awesome, that's what I have to do this evening. And I got a reminder for it. You add just dates and times to it and you're sorted. So with the dates and times, guys, you can go, when you come into that, when you click on it and that little information icon pops up, obviously that's where you add your dates. You can say how frequently it repeats, which is really handy. And then you can also add times to it based on your ideal time. And of course, once you customize that sort of stuff, it makes it very simple to remember to action certain things. But it takes time, of course, in the beginning to get everything out of your head and into the task tool. That's what is the most time intensive. But basically, if you're doing something and you're like, oh, I was meant to do that, or I was meant to chase up that, I was got to call that person, that has to be in a list. Because what happens is our brain is keeping subliminally a list of every single thing that we've ever said we're going to do, we're going to action, we're going to get to. And if you don't have a system which you're going to come back to it, your brain is circulating on that. And this is why women can feel so overwhelmed and like their brain is so busy and they get no mental downtime. And it's because the brain is constantly going, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? What do I need to do? What have I forgotten? Have I forgotten anything? It's quite stressful. All right, any questions, team?
My widget just randomly swapped home screens. So.
Oh, it's moved, has it?
Yeah, moved.
Okay.
The second page. I've moved it back, but
okay,
very random.
Now, what you do want to do, actually, which is what we started doing before, ladies, was making sure that your widget goes to your today list. Yeah, so when you click on that widget, so if you click the widget and you make it wobble.
Oh, now I'm deleting all my things on my reminder list.
Oh, click up the top, yes. Otherwise, they'll be ticked off. You can go to completed and see the ones you may have ticked. So let me just show you this. So yes, so basically my today list is like it's just a running list of what I want to get to within the next 72 hours. So what I'll do in my morning routine is I'll sit down and for 15 minutes every morning, I sit down. I mean, you don't have to do this every morning. I do it simply because it really clears my head and I feel like I'm very productive. I don't forget things. And so I found it very valuable. But I sit down for 15 minutes very early in the morning and I just go, okay, what needs to be drag and dropped where? What do I need on my today list? And then that today list is what shows up on the front of my phone here. And I'm like, awesome. Like, it's a constant reminder. Like, let's be honest, we're looking at our phones all the time. And so if it's sitting there, you're like, awesome, I can get to those things. You know what I mean? So if you go up the very top and you touch at the top of that, you can click edit widget. Then you can click on the list that you want it to link to. And you don't want it to be this top today one, the one at the top, the blue one. You want it to be the today that you've created here. Because this is the one that when you talk to it, this is the one where your items go. This is your dominant one. This one up here is the one that when you create these scheduled items, it's scheduled here, 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 or even down, you know, they're scheduled for a later date, that one there, when they pop up and they tell you what to do, when to do it, I keep trying to use my mouse on my phone screen on my computer. When it pops up there, then what you know is it comes into this box here, which is that blue today, but you want it to be the today that you've created. So just make sure that is highlighted as your dominant list, so it sits there. So let me just explain the app a little bit more. So so for example, if you looked at my list there, scheduled for a later date, you can see the ones that are sitting in red are the ones that need to be actioned today or yesterday, as you can see there, right? So it's telling you were meant to do this whenever, right? But the cool thing is I don't expect myself that I'm going to go into those lists and check them because it's too overwhelming to have to check stuff. So what I do is see at the very top where it says today here, when I click that, what it does is it pulls from all my lists, every single list that I have, all 300 items, and it goes, what did this woman have to do today? And it puts it on one. That is so handy. Then you don't have to check all these different lists. It only tells you what you have to do on that day and at that time. So it'll pull it from everywhere. So you can actually organize all your lists, have all your times and categories in there, and it'll pull it into a master when you need to action it for that day. Also, the cool thing is you can see that, like this one, for example, that's sat there for a couple of days now, 4 days there, but it'll continue to sit there until I eventually action it. That's just me. I need to listen to a podcast. But you know what I mean? Like, this is really handy. You can even say I put in there when subscriptions need to be cancelled so I don't get charged unnecessarily. It's just stuff like that. It's like you forget that stuff, right? And the next thing you've been charged $200. It's annoying. So that's the kind of brain dumping that we need to get so that we can feel clear-minded and not overwhelmed with our task list. Any other questions about it?
So pretty much if we had a birthday list, everybody's birthdays can go up there, and if we tick yearly, it'll just come up on the day each year.
Yeah.
That's what I need.
Yes. So let me show you how I set this up in my calendar. So in my calendar, I've actually done the same thing. But the cool thing about the calendar is you can have multiple reminders, which is really handy because I'm very forgetful. So, well, I'm not forgetful as in because I have a system, but I would be totally forgetful if I didn't have this system. I'd be absolutely useless. So yeah, let me show you this, Janine. Okay, so what I have is I have everyone's birthday, for example, in here. When you create a birthday in your Google Calendar, like this one, for example, what you can do, which is really handy, is you can add notifications. This is my husband's birthday, so I'm not going to forget my husband's birthday, right? But if it was someone else's, I would add notifications. But what you can do is you can add notifications. You can go, okay, I want a notification 7 days before. I want a notification 1 day before. I want a notification on the day. Huh? How good's that? Then you remember to buy the card, the birthday present. You remember about it the day before, and then also on the morning of, you're like, yeah, sweet, got that person's birthday. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm quite bad. I will forget stuff. So that's the wonderful thing about Google Calendar. You can add multiple on one, and it will just tag you and tag you and tag you and click off. Whereas reminders, you would have to add, like for my water reminder, for my water reminder, I have to go like Monday, remind me at 9, Tuesday, remind me at 9, Wednesday, remind me at 9. That's the only problem. You can't say, or you can say do it daily, but you can't say like only do it Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You have to add one for Monday, one for Wednesday, one day, Friday. I mean, it's only setting it up once and it's done forever, but it's just a bit annoying that you can't just customize days like you can with the calendar functions. Make sense? Great.